Namaste everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Stephen Knapp, who has traveled from Detroit, Michigan to attend Dharma and Yoga Fest here. He is a well-known author. He has written many books on spirituality and Hindu philosophies. He is a great speaker and advocate for Dharma and Yoga Fest. Today, he will present his argument on why it is important to make Dharma and Yoga part of our daily life. Little bit about Stephen Knapp. Mr. Stephen Knapp grew up in Christian family. During his young age, he studied Bible to understand its teachings, and soon he sought answers to the questions not explained in Christianity or Christian theology. So he began to search through the other religions and philosophies from around the world. He also studied a variety of occult sciences, ancient mythology, mysticism, and spiritual teachings of the East. And finally, after reading of the Bhagavad Gita, the classic summary of Vedic philosophy, he felt that he had found the last piece of puzzle which he has been searching for years. This increased his understanding of everything else he had been studying. Therefore, he continued to research, study of all Vedic texts of Hinduism to gain a better understanding. Finally, he became a full-fledged follower and practitioner of Sanatana Dharma. Under the authority of Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Prabhupada, Mr. Knapp was given the spiritual name as Shri Nandan Das and became initiated into the spiritual line of Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya. Now he has been tirelessly working to protect, preserve, and promote the deep spiritual knowledge of Vedic philosophy by giving lectures, participating in discussions, and publishing books and articles. He has written a number of books and articles on spirituality and on Hinduism. He has also traveled across India, mainly major of all holy places there. Mr. Knapp is a founder of World Relief Network and also one of the founders and president of Vedic Friends Association, a non-profit organization which enables collaboration with other writers, researchers, and teachers in order to share and expand their knowledge of Vedic culture. There's a lot more to talk about him, so I would like to take a break here and I would like to call him to talk about Dharma and Yoga. Mr. Stephen Knapp.
Thank you very much. And first I'd like to thank the organizers of this event for a couple things. One thing for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. And also for providing the facility that we can rejoice and celebrate the Vedic culture. Because I happen to be one of those individuals that I'm proud to be a Hindu. I'm proud to be a Krishna Bhakta. I'm proud to be a follower of Sanatana Dharma. And oftentimes I feel that Indians are not proud enough. You should be completely proud of your culture. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the deepest and most profound culture on the planet. Just show me one that has more information, one that has the dealings with so many questions of philosophy and the purpose for being here. Show me a culture that discusses so many different aspects of what the absolute truth is. And then maybe I'll consider, the thing of it is, like I was just said in the introduction, I've already gone through all the different cultures, all the different religions around the world. And I already know that you cannot find all the deep answers to the questions that you can find in the Vedic culture and Vedic philosophy. That's why there should be no reason why any of us should not be proud of this culture and a participant of this culture and be ready to share this culture with everybody else. That's the thing. So I want to thank the organizers, because this is an event, this kind of festival right here, is a way that we can celebrate our culture, all the different aspects of it, and also bring others into it to also begin to appreciate what we have to offer. And we also have to realize that over the years, especially the past 1,000 years, there have been so many Hindus, so many Indian Hindus that have given their lives just so that we can still have the freedom to practice what we have today. And I'm not here to talk about that so much today, but if anybody wants to know all the details, they can read my book, Crimes Against India and the Need to Protect Its Ancient Vedic Tradition, which oddly enough was just told by the yoga guru in India, Swami Nityananda Paramahamsa, told all of his disciples around the world they should read that book. And I didn't even know that he did that until some of his disciples started to email me and tell me that that's what happened, and that's how, and they appreciate the book so much. But anyway, you can all find out so many different things I have to say in all the books I've written, over 25 now, on my website at www.stephen-knapp.com or just stephenknapp.info, or if you want, you can come up to me and I can give you my card. It's a little big for a card, but that'll give you more information on that. We're also celebrating the 150th appearance of Vivekananda Swami, who was, I think, the first Vedic ambassador. And he came here not with the idea of converting people, but he came here just with the idea of sharing what he knew about it and what it could do for everybody else. So I think in that regard, it was a historic moment yesterday when I happened to be in the Chicago festival that we had an event which happened in the Fullerton Hall in the Art Institute of Chicago, where Swami Vivekananda gave his first speech over 120 years ago, calling out to everybody, my dear brothers and sisters, because he knew that Vedically speaking, and this is what I'm going to talk about now, we're all connected, we're all spirit souls, we're all beyond this body and the differences that the body appearance makes. We're all connected in that way. And this is what he could see, and this is what any Vedic sage can see. Beyond borders, a world beyond borders, a world without borders. That spiritually speaking, we're all the same, and in that regard, the Dharmic principles can establish global peace. Of course, there's always been times of war. Even amongst the Dharmic tribes, there's been wars, but never once was there a war based on conquering for possession of the country or converting to another religion. That has never been an issue. And there's a reason for that. It's because of the Vedic philosophy and the deep wisdom and realization that it has to offer. And this is what we all need to consider today. So I'm going to talk about, as he said, the benefits of yoga, the benefits of the Dharmic principles, and how it can benefit the individual as well as society in general. I mean, do you all think there's a possibility that we can have global peace and that the Dharmic tradition can play a part of that? How many think that's a possibility? Anybody? Don't leave me up here thinking that I'm the only one that feels that way. Yeah. Well, thank you for those that applauded. At least there's a few out there that feel we've got something to strive for. Because these kind of festivals is what we can do to not only preserve and protect our culture, but also promote and perpetuate it. And this is something that we all have to work on. That's why it's important that we all become organized. That's why it's important we all become affiliated with one of the organizations, whether it's the HSS, VHP, ISKCON, for example, or some other organization by which our little effort can be magnified and broadened into doing great miracles. That's the whole point of an organization, is that whatever little you have to do or can do becomes expanded, becomes multiplied, so that great things can happen. And that's one of the things that Vivekananda showed us. A little effort and more people coming to join him can do wondrous things throughout the world. So anyway, the benefits of yoga are both individual and social, various and numerous. On the mental level, it strengthens concentration, determination, and builds a stronger character that can more easily reduce and cope with various tensions in this material world. And how many are free of tension? So the assortment of asanas and postures also provides stronger health and keeps ills such as diabetes, high and low blood pressure, and on away or in check. It improves physical strength, endurance, flexibility, back pain, digestive disorders, and arthritis. It promotes detoxification of the body, toning of the muscles, and relief from the stress and anxiety that we experience so much of today. Certain diseases can actually be prevented or improved by performing yoga on a daily basis. And one of the people that was that's a strong advocate of this was at did one of the talks yesterday at the Fullerton Hall in Chicago. And that was Swami Baba Ramdev, which I'm sure many of you know about. He was there. And also Dr. Subramanian Swami, His Holiness Chidananda Saraswatis, and Rajiv Malhotra. So some of these big names were there that were there to glorify Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda, and establish the reason why we need to continue to work to protect and maintain and perpetuate this culture. So what I'm reading for you today are things that you should all know, and you should be able to repeat it. This is the thing. I'm not just standing up here giving you information. I expect you to repeat it so that when people ask you, why do you do yoga? Or what's so good about your culture? That you don't shy away from it, but you can stare him in the face and explain in an even, non-emotional, and not worked up or defensive manner what is so glorious about your culture. This is what we all have to practice. We have to be able to share. Because the thing of it is, remember, as soon as somebody asks you about Vedic culture, you become a representative of everybody else that follows it. And I want to make sure that you're qualified to represent me. If somebody asks you, whether at work or at school or anything else, because these things happen all the time, you've got to know what to say. You've got to be educated in your culture. You have to know how to answer questions, and you also have to know how to teach your children. Because if we expect to perpetuate this culture, our children have to know the right answers to the questions they have. Otherwise, they'll figure, I don't know how to relate to it. I don't know what it's all about. Why should I accept it? That's the question that got me here where I am today. I followed the religion of my parents, and basically I wanted to know more. I wanted to know a deeper level of spirituality. So I looked at all the different religions. And finally I came to Bhagavad Gita. As he explained, Bhagavad Gita answered the questions that I was looking for, gave me the answers that I needed. And that's what convinced me, because the children today all think one thing: what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of it? If I don't get anything out of it, then there's no point. So we have to explain things in a way by which they can understand the importance, the benefit, and the potential of it. So, when it comes to factors that keep us apart, we have to realize a few things. One of the main concerns in establishing peace and unity and harmony in this world is an old problem. And that's mentioned in the Taoist text called the Xuanzhu, which says, men of this world all rejoice in others being like themselves, and object to others not being like themselves. So one of the main reasons for this is that everyone acts under the influence of the different bodily conceptions of life. This causes three of the above-mentioned factors, or the enemies. The three enemies are envy, pride, and anger. And because of our bodily conception, one may become proud of who we are, or envious of others, or angry over their apparent differences from us. Because of these diverse perceptions, people cannot act in harmony in this world. And to act in harmony and unity, there must be a central focus. Since everyone is actually a spiritual being, being a soul within a material body, accepting the body as oneself is an illusion. We all know this, but you know that saying, even a child of 8 may know this, but hardly a man of 80 can put it into practice. You know that saying? So we have to make sure that we know this and can put it into practice. So this illusion causes one to think that I'm an American, I'm a Russian, I'm a European, I'm white or black or this or that, fat, skinny, young, old, male and female even. So we have to think beyond this. But what is this consciousness of being American or Russian, a Republican or Democrat, black or white? It is all based on the impermanent identity of the ever-changing body and mind. It is the I and my consciousness. It creates a society in which people fight with each other because of the differences of their body and their identification with it. That's the whole problem. Their identification with their body and the differences that they see from everyone else. So the whole world exists under this illusion. So how can there be any peace? Even though government leaders talk about peace and meet in peace conferences, we've heard plenty of that going on lately, there can be no peace as long as this false consciousness continues. So when people under the bodily concept of life, they do not know that their real self-interest is spiritual. Therefore, they try to adjust things materially, changing their situation, changing the way they look sometimes, changing their job, or trying to change the government, or their living arrangement, and so on. They think that such adjustments are the way to be happy and to improve their lives. But these arrangements, however, are temporary. They may help a little bit, but sooner or later, more changes are needed because we live under this mindset of the material, of being concerned about the material condition over and above our spiritual progress. So furthermore, leaders are doing the same thing. They try to change things through political, economic, or military adjustments. However, more often than not, it is merely guesswork. It is simply speculating on what strategy to use. And yet at the same time, the problems, the fighting, and antagonisms continue. The United Nations in New York has been formed to try to calm the fighting that goes on and work out the differences and work in unity. But instead, people are usually coming together and blame or threaten each other for different things. Actually, we can see that more flags are flying, not less flags. So more countries and borders have been established and everyone has their own agenda. Disagreements between countries have actually increased, and this brings the world to a deplorable state. So unless we have a central focus on the goal and identity of humanity, all talk of unity is merely utopian. It will never happen. So as long as people act under the influence of thinking that they are their bodies and their situation or whatever, born of a certain country, culture, religion, or loyal only to that particular identity, people will continue to fight like cats and dogs. No matter how much we desire peace between everyone so we can live in unity, as long as we live in this bodily concept of life, peace is not possible. So, the only possibility of unity is rising above that bodily platform of life and coming to the spiritual platform. Then there is a genuine possibility of unity on this planet because we can focus on the real identity of humanity as the uniting force amongst us all. And Vivekananda has given some very important words on that. So if you don't mind, I'll read this quote from Vivekananda. And I quote, he says, "This is another great theme of the Vedanta, this oneness of life, this oneness of everything. We shall see how it demonstrates that all of our misery comes through ignorance, And this ignorance is the idea of manifoldness, this separation between man and man, between nation and nation, between earth and moon, between moon and sun. Out of this idea of separation between Adam and Adam comes all misery. But the Vedanta says this separation does not exist. It is not real. It is merely apparent on the surface. In the heart of things there is unity still. If you go below the surface, if you look at the foundation of everything, you find that unity between man and man, between races, high and low, rich and poor, even gods and men and animals. If you go deep enough, all will be seen as only variations of the one. And he who has attained to this conception of oneness has no more delusion. What can delude him? He knows the reality of everything, the secret of everything. Where is there any more misery for him? What does he desire? He has traced the reality of everything to the Lord, the center, the unity of everything. And that is eternal existence, eternal knowledge, and eternal bliss. Neither death, nor disease, nor sorrow, nor misery, nor discontent is there. All is perfect union and perfect bliss. For whom should he mourn then? In the reality, there is no death, there is no misery. In the reality, there is no one to mourn for, no one to be sorry for. He has penetrated everything, the pure one. He, the knower, he, the great poet, the self-existent. He who has given to everyone what he deserves. They grope, those that are in delusion, grope in darkness, who worship this ignorant world, the world that is produced out of ignorance, thinking of it as existence, or the real existence. And those who live their whole lives in this world and never find anything better or higher are groping in still greater darkness. But he who knows the secret of nature, seeing that which is beyond nature, through the help of nature, he crosses death. And through the help of that which is beyond nature, he enjoys eternal bliss. End quote. That was what Swami Vivekananda had to say about the nature of Vedanta and what it can give for us. Therefore, one of the goals of human existence is to realize and enter that reality. We need to be agents of reality. This could also be called having a spiritual vision. We all know that Vedanta always described and prescribed the need to have that spiritual vision. So what is it? What is a spiritual vision? To attain a spiritual vision, we need to follow the dharmic process and rise above the body platform if we ever expect to reach a stage of permanent peace and unity. Even on an individual basis, real peace of mind can be attained only when one realizes that he or she is not the body. For example, everybody knows, and there's many great stories, of how people have attained happiness by overcoming their limitations. And those limitations usually begin with the idea that they are this body or their situation. And somehow they overcome it. And then there's great lauditude for the person, there's great praise for what this person has done, but basically that's the emphasis of it. But the point of it is, Vedanta has prescribed that from the very beginning, that that's what we all need to do. Otherwise, when you think you are this body, you engage in that never-ending game of trying to satisfy your mind and senses, which always want new things for stimulation. It doesn't matter. You get a nice meal, and you think you're satisfied. But then the mind comes in and says, oh yeah, but you know something, it would be great to have this, or great to have that. And then you go out and get it, and then the mind says, well, you just had that, but you know something else, what would really top it off if you had this, or had that? And then the intelligence kicks in, and that's how things operate. Your mind is telling you what to do, and the intelligence makes a plan to achieve it. And then you think you're doing very nicely, only to repeat the same pattern of events over and over and over again. So the more you try to satisfy your senses, the more you will come under the control of lust, greed, and anger. Lust is there when you want to satisfy your material desires, and greed is there when you want more than you need. Anger will always be there in some form when you fail to achieve what you want, or when you attain whatever it is you want, but then lose it. You become disappointed, you become frustrated. So we find that the best sources for explaining the characteristics of the soul are found in the ancient Vedic literature of India. And I've researched them all, and I've never seen anything or anywhere the clarity that comes from the Vedic literature on who and what we really are. And this is one of the reasons why we also need to preserve and protect this culture. Many such texts have informed us, but the greatest text is one of the ancient classics called the Bhagavad Gita, and that is one of the basic classics of the Indian culture. And in 1334 it explains, O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, meaning the soul, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Any body that has consciousness means that there is a soul within that body. So another great verse compares the body to a chariot, in which the self is the soul riding within. It says, transcendentalists who are advanced in knowledge compare the body, which is made by the order of the Supreme Personality, to a chariot. The senses are like the horses, the mind is the master of the senses, is like the reins, and the objects of the senses are the destinations. The intelligence is the chariot driver, and consciousness, which spreads throughout the body, is the cause of bondage in this material world. And that's from the Bhagavad Purana 7:15-41. So the consciousness binds us to this material world because of the material desires within it, or the misidentification of our body as being our real identity. And all I can say is sometimes when I look in the mirror, I am just so thankful I'm not this body. Because if this is as good as it gets, I mean, I'm really not sure how I would cope. But the fact of the matter is I've come across the Vedic tradition. It has described me that I'm actually the soul within, and being the soul within, I can rise above all these limitations, all these differences that take place on the bodily platform. So therefore, we also have great joy that we can abide in and live in because of this particular kind of knowledge. When you have this kind of knowledge, you can rise above all other kinds of problems that exist within, around, or in your situation. So naturally, until our consciousness is cleansed or spiritualized, we recognize various beings according to their body. We may see a person that appears to be a man or a woman, or body or a baby, or we may recognize those who appear to be animals, insects, aquatics, or even plants. However, once we can see beyond the material bodies, we will see that all of these entities are the same. They are all spirit souls. No other tradition provides for such clarity. Even the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 5 verses 10 and 11 states that the self is not man, woman, nor neuter, nor but appears in different types of bodies only due to the previous activities and desires of the living entity. This is how the entity chooses whatever status in which one presently appears. But a person with divine consciousness can perceive that he or she is beyond all material designation and activities. As further explained in another of the great ancient Vedic texts, the Sri Ishopanishad, mantras 6 and 7, it says, "He who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything nor any being. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him?" So only in this frame of mind, or with this focus, we will be able to reach a stage of peace within ourselves individually and go on to attain peace in the world. That is what the world needs. In other words, like another saying of Vivekananda, peace, global peace, starts from within. We have to reach that stage ourselves. So, how do we reach that stage of seeing the divinity within each of us? Because that's what it really means. This is why I formed what I call the 11th commandment. The other commandments we hear about are but moralistic principles. But now is the time to add real transcendence to the equation. And this 11th commandment that I formed is simply, of course, the thing of it is you all have to have moralistic principles. Because without moralistic principles, basically the whole planet becomes absolutely insane. But beyond that, we have to go further. We have to understand the divinity of all of us. And by that, I formed this 11th commandment, which is simply, thou shalt recognize the divinity in all living beings. And that the Spirit, in all forms of life, is nothing but part of the Supreme Spirit. So this is the way we need to recognize each other, and if applied properly, it would create great social change. Because if you actually saw each other in that way, it would make a difference in how you conducted your life, how you did business dealings, how you related with your neighbors, what kind of diet you had. All kinds of things would change if you could simply and directly perceive the divinity within all living beings. But viewing it in another way, Morihei Ueshiba, who was the founder of the Aikido method of martial arts, said, above all, one must unite one's heart with that of the gods. The essence of God is love, an all-pervading love that reaches every corner of the universe. If one is not united to God, this universe cannot be harmonized. Martial artists who are not in harmony with the universe are merely executing combat techniques, not Aiki. And Aiki means, I means uniting harmony and love with Ki, or the universal energy. Now this understanding is very important in even everyday life, because if we are not working in harmony with love and universal energy, we are simply going through daily routines that are ineffectual and empty of any spiritual value. We need to practice the methods which also awaken the connection that we have with God and the universe and each other. This is the way we can fully grow and develop. Then our life will have meaning and purpose. We will be guided by our own upliftment, and will be able to assist in the upliftment of others. And we will be able to recognize the all-pervasiveness of the Supreme Being. And this is the goal of yoga and the Dharmic spiritual process. The essence of this perception, again, has been related in the ancient Vedic texts that we find, such as the Svetasvatara Upanishad 6:11, which states, he is the one God hidden in all beings, all-pervading, the self within all beings, watching over all worlds, dwelling in all beings, the witness and the perceiver, end quote. So if one can truly understand this and become enlightened in this way, he will see that he is a part of the supreme reality and realize his union with all beings. Within that enlightenment, one can reach divine love. This love, bhakti, as we were discussing earlier up here, this love is based on the spiritual oneness and harmony between all beings, which is sublime. And it is a source of spiritual bliss. It is a love based not on bodily relations or mutual attraction, but it is based on being one in spirit, beyond the temporary nature of the material body. And this is the love for which everyone searches. Everyone is looking for this love. Because let's face it, hardly anybody can live without love, because that is the nature of the soul. So, this is the love for which everyone searches, from which springs forth peace, harmony, and unity, of which all other kinds of love are but mere reflections. This state of being is reached through the spirituality as taught in the Dharmic traditions. Therefore, a life without spirituality is a life incomplete. All have the need to fill their souls with spirituality, the presence of God, in order to feel fullness, peace, centeredness, and unity. To begin seeing how things really are and to recognize the divinity in each of us, we have to start adjusting our consciousness. And this takes place by being trained in the Vedic spiritual knowledge and by practicing yoga, which purifies or spiritualizes the mind. When the mind becomes purified and the false ego no longer influences our vision, we become sensible people. And this is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verses 31 to 32, which says, "When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, he attains the spiritual conception. Those with a vision of eternity see that the soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite being within the material body, the soul is above such material contact. And when a person becomes sensible, he attains the supreme spiritual peace." So in this way, we can understand that all of us are but small reflections of the supreme consciousness. When we put the greater whole above ourselves and realize that we all contribute to the condition of this planet, then uniting with a common good cause and with that supreme consciousness will be easy. The planet does not allow us to be isolated. It just doesn't work that way. We all must work together and interface with others on some level. One lesson that this school of existence on this planet forces us to learn is that when we come together like we're doing now, willingly to communicate with a positive purpose and to pray together and to unite for the good of the whole, then harmony and peace can exist. That peace forms and manifests when we focus on our spiritual nature, which brings between us our unity in the Supreme as children of the same Supreme Father. Making this the center of our existence will easily bring peace, unity, and harmony in this world because it brings in the spiritual vibration. In other words, it brings in the spiritual dimension that emanates from God. That vibration is one of spiritual love. It is all that is eternal. That spiritual love is all that is eternal. Everything comes and goes. That is the ultimate relationship between the infinite and the infinitesimal, which is basically you and me. So all else is temporary. It comes and goes. Therefore, focusing on and using our energy on temporary emotions like envy, jealousy, and anger will only keep us far away from the Supreme and from reaching any peace or unity between us. We have to recognize how similar we are in order to expand our heart towards others whom we may have previously rejected. This is how love and understanding can dissolve the boundaries that can keep us stifled as a society and as individuals, and keep us from entering higher dimensions of consciousness. There is no other. Spiritually, a lack of love towards each other is nothing more than a reflection of a lack of love for God. When we think in spiritual consciousness, we do not recognize others by their differences, but we see our similarities. And this is easy when we think in terms of being sons and daughters of the same Supreme Father, or parts of His creation, or all sharing this world together. We all belong to the One. Only in this way can there be universal love amongst all living entities. Only in this way can we begin to think that we are related to each other. Once we establish our relationship with the Supreme through yoga, which we've been talking about here, then we can establish our true relationship with everyone else. Remember, our spiritual nature is eternal. Our spiritual relation with the Supreme is eternal. Therefore, our spiritual relationship with each other is also eternal. We simply have to reach that stage of awareness. This is the central point. This central point has to be established in order for there to be universal peace, brotherhood, equality, and unity in the world. In essence, yoga and the Dharmic principles teach us that we are all consciousness in material forms. Consciousness cannot be destroyed, It is the essence of God in each of us. We are all spiritual beings, reflections of the divine, and we are not our beliefs, our cultures, or our minds and bodies, but we are the divine souls on a wondrous journey through truth, and we've all manifested from God the supreme truth, and we are all evolving back to God. As the Manu Samhita 12:125 relates, thus, he who by means of the self, meaning the greater self, God, sees the soul in all created things after attaining equality with all, enters into Brahman, or the spiritual consciousness, which is the highest place. That is the ultimate goal. That is the purpose of life on this planet. That is the purpose of being a human. And right now, this world is filled with people who have so many different conceptions, it's sometimes hard to even be human. But the Bhagavad Gita 4:39 also states, a faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, attains that supreme spiritual peace. This is how the Dharmic values and principles can spread to affect all of humanity for its greatest social good, which then also affects all life on this planet. And the more each and every one of us becomes dedicated to this, the more we can each and every one of us help uplift the vibration, the mass consciousness of this society, of this world. That's why it's said that if only 3% of people become perfect in yoga or the Dharmic principles, it can gradually grow to 10%. And as 10% of people begin to practice it, it changes the whole vibrational structure of the planet. And society itself can't help but change, can't help but progress, and can't help but be more human, meaning being more spiritually aware. So let me just conclude with this. The fact is, the Vedic philosophy does not give the idea of conversion as part of its premise, nor has India and its people ever gone on campaigns to conquer over people and countries or religions. The Vedic culture has continually promoted the Sanskrit saying of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the whole world is one family, the whole world. I rarely hear that in any other country today, nor in any other religion. The Vedic philosophy points out that the whole purpose as a human being is to live harmoniously with nature, with the world, and all of society to accomplish the true goal of life. It is this human life and this planet Earth that is like a portal through which we can attain many different realms of existence. It only depends on how we utilize this human form of life. And that's the directions, that's the instructions we find in the Dharmic literature, the Vedic literature today. So the whole purpose of this planet Earth and of life on it is to raise our consciousness and understand and perceive who we really are as spiritual beings, rising above this human experience and to attain our real and spiritual identity, and then to act in that way. But how long that takes is up to us. That is what we are meant to do, and by clearly understanding and being educated in this way through the Vedic culture and following its principles is the way we can attain that goal. And what did Swami Vivekananda say? Arise, awake until the goal is reached. Never stop. You have to take that upon yourselves. So this is called Sanatana Dharma. The timeless, universal, spiritual truths which do not conflict with anyone, but is applicable for everyone, for any time in history, and for any place in the universe. This is our responsibility. This is our duty to not only understand it, become educated in it, follow it, and to promote and bring that culture to as many other people as possible for the good of the whole, the good of the planet, for good of society, and for the good of ourselves. Thank you very much.